Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a totally normal podcast about films, Atom Path. I am once more the lovely Claire. I am joined by my co-host and good friend,
Leon.
And I'm just gonna jump the boat here. We watched a masterpiece.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah, I mean, we watched, as per Leon's choice, 12 Angry Men. A movie I don't think I'd ever watch if it wasn't for this recommendation.
Thank you.
And as someone who doesn't... I'm not really into courtroom dramas. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not that much into courtroom dramas too, but this one, it's different. Like, it's not that much about the case, more about convincing others and the dynamic between all those figures.
Obviously we'll get more into that, like this with spoiler territory, but
yeah,
I think it was a very good case of... It was one of the best explorations of human nature I have ever seen.
Yeah, to think about that, it's kind of old. It's from 1957, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and it's got takes on racism that are very modern.
Yeah, I think it's kind of timeless.
I completely agree.
Because conversations like these, they still happen to these days.
Mm-hmm. There were so many absolutely poignant scenes in it, and there was not a single moment in it that was like... Because sometimes you watch old films and you're like, ooh, that hasn't aged well. If you had told me that this film was actually filmed this year, would have believed you.
Yeah. Well, of course, you see that it's black and white and stuff like this, but sometimes to this day, people choose to stay black and white and with this grainy look. For example, The Lighthouse. I don't know if you saw this one.
Did not.
The Lighthouse is a movie that chose this kind of look.
Huh.
But I don't want to talk about this movie now.
So the initial so before we kind of get deep into the movie, what was your just general opinion on the movie? I mean, we've kind of established that, but would you recommend it to the people who are just catching this to get a recommendation?
Yeah, definitely. So it is, as I said last episode, I think, one of my favorite movies of all time. I watched it quite recently. I think last year was the first time I watched it. And to be honest, I didn't have much expectations going into it. I was just curious, and it was one of the oldest movies I watched back then.
Mm-hmm.
So the only other one I watched before that was Nosferatu. That was a little bit older.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, to be honest, it's just a masterpiece, as you said already.
Mm-hmm. For me, very, very similarly, this was my first time watching it. Absolutely amazing. I've got a lot of thoughts about it, but I think one of the key things to say is, I know black and white so people often get put off by black and white movies. Please just try and put that aside and watch this. I think this is one of the most important movies someone could watch.
Probably.
I heard there was a 1997 remake, and I've heard it's pretty good. So, maybe check that out, but watch 12 Angry Men.
Yeah, if you're strictly against watching black and white movies, then give the remake a shot, but I think the original is just fine.
So shall we go into spoiler territory?
Yeah,
Or have you got a bit more to say?
Maybe we should sum up the plot.
Yes, good idea. Do you want to go?
I don't mind. I can do it.
Yeah, you've watched the film more times, so...
Okay, I watched it twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
More than me.
So this movie is mostly set in one place, in a little chamber.
I think it only spends 3 minutes outside the chamber.
Yeah. And it starts with the end of how do you say it?
It's the end of a court case.
The end of a court case. And the jury, consisting of 12 men, has to go inside this chamber and make a unanimous decision whether the guy who's convicted should be killed, I think, by the electric chair, or if he's not guilty.
It has to be a death penalty.
Yeah. So it was a death penalty, but I think it was specified as the electric chair.
Yes.
And basically, they do a vote right at the start before even discussing the case to see the general opinion. And, well, it's 11-1 pleading that he's guilty. Yeah, and then they start discussing, and I think Henry Fonda, the guy who produced it, I don't know if he directed it too.
No, he was just the producer.
Okay, he produced it, and he plays
Number 8.
Number 8. Yeah, you were number 8. And he's the one who says not guilty. And
what's interesting is that he's not saying not guilty because he believes the kid's not guilty. He's saying it because he doesn't know. And that's a very interesting starting point.
Yeah, so when he's questioned, even though everything seems to point against this kid, to say the guy who is convicted is only 18 years old, and it seems like he killed his own father. And he doesn't want to convict him right away by saying he's guilty. He just wants to at least talk about the case.
Yeah, like give the guy some words before they send him to his death.
Yeah.
And as they discuss, more gets unraveled, and it's a very interesting movie about, like, we obviously will get into the details later, but it very much makes you think.
Yeah, like... no, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, and like I've heard, I think I read that, like, technically that isn't how a jury would work. But outside of it, if you even look outside of the fact that it is an official jury, it's 12 men with a very big moral decision. And it goes from there. It's got a really great cast too.
It does.
Considering there's 12 main characters, each one was very well cast. Even though I'd say, 3 and 8 are the main characters, each one has like their moment to shine.
They do. I think there's only 2 people in the jury that are a little bit less interesting, but I think it's important that they are there, and I mean I think it's number 7 and number 12.
Yeah. Yes. Hat guy, and yeah, I know exactly who you're on about.
Yeah, so number 7 is totally indifferent about this case, I think.
He really just wants to leave.
Yeah, he has tickets for a baseball game, I think. Was it baseball?
Yes, it was baseball. He wants to go watch a baseball game.
Yeah, and he just wants to vote, get it over fast, and leave to watch his game.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we will talk about him later, I think, before we spoil anything. And number 12, he is a marketing guy. And I think he's not that much interested in the case itself.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the least memorable guys.
Yeah.
A personal favourite of mine, like, I liked a lot of the cast. A personal favourite was I think it was number 11, the mustache guy.
Oh, the guy from Switzerland.
Yeah.
He's a clockmaker.
He seems, at the start, obviously we'll get into more fine details, but at the start he seems very not that big into the plot. But by the end, he has some of my favourite moments.
Yeah. I think it doesn't make sense to go on without spoiling. Because the basic plot, we already described it. If you want to watch it, you should stop now, watch the movie, and maybe come back later. Or if you don't care to be spoiled beforehand, you can continue listening.
I'm sorry to counter you on that. I actually implore you just stop and watch the movie, because this isn't really like Caligari or Mothra, where it's like, you can get away with spoilers. Go into this movie as blind as you can.
Yeah.
And just try it and put yourself in the juror's shoes and try and work it out with them. So yes, we're in spoiler territory.
Starting now.
I've got a very important question for you, and I think this is a very great place to start off.
Okay.
Do you think he did it?
The boy.
Yes.
That's
a very difficult question to start on. And that's exactly my point. The fact that you've just stuttered on that. Because, I mean, I do care about what you're going to say, but like the point I was going to make doesn't rely on what you was going to say. That's what I think makes this film perfect. There's no flashbacks. There's no like concrete, did he do it? We simply don't know. I don't think he did it.
Well, after watching this movie and as they talked about all the evidence and deconstructed it, I don't think he did it too. But you can't say it for sure, and that's why I like this movie so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because, as I said, it's not about if he actually did it or did it not. It's more about the people in this room and this wide range of personalities clashing onto each other.
Mm-hmm. And where do we even begin?
Maybe we should go through each jury member and talk a little bit about them, and later we go on about our favorite parts.
That's an excellent idea. Okay, so one was the guy in charge of the meeting, right?
Yeah.
He was at the end of the table. He was kind of keeping the peace.
He was calm and he kind of led the discussion.
Mm-hmm. I liked one.
Yeah.
Because it's as you said, he was really calm, while everyone else was getting very agitated. He was specifically being like, hey, you're getting too personal right now. Calm down. Like, he was kind of the grown-up in the room.
Yeah, he tried to be objective, but he still stand with his decision from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was one of... He stayed very long as a person who said that he is guilty. You know?
Yeah, I think it was like, it was only after they proved that the old man couldn't have seen him that he changed his vote.
Yeah, it took some time for him to change it.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I liked him, because even as a lot of the other people are like, come on, just vote, he was still there like, you know what, no, we're gonna give you a chance. Which, you know what, I respect. Number 2, who was, that was the guy that was like kind of a little shy.
Yeah, he was, I think, a bank worker or something like that. Yeah. And he was shy, especially in the beginning.
But he definitely kind of started to get like a bit of a rise of confidence as the case went on.
Yeah. Like, just to quote him, I think he said at the beginning when they stated why they think he's guilty, this little boy is guilty, he said something along the lines like, it just seems obvious, and someone... Oh, was he? No, he just says...
It was 8.
Yeah.
That pointed out.
Okay, should we go to number 3?
Can we jump past number 3? Because I think number 3 is going to take up a lot of time.
Okay.
You know why?
Yeah.
Because like, there's a lot I want to discuss about number 3, because I think he might be one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
Even as the antagonist.
Yes, he is basically he is the antagonist of this film, but you still understand him, I think, at least at the end.
He's the perfect example of an antagonist, but not a villain.
Yeah.
You basically up until the end, you see where he's coming from, and then when the twist happens, you're like, okay, I understand now.
Yeah.
Number 4 was the guy with glasses, right?
He's a stockbroker.
Yeah.
And I think he's the guy who was mostly concerned about facts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he didn't take this whole case personally. He tried to watch at it as objectively as he can and base his decision on that.
Mm-hmm. And as a result, he made a really good foil to 8, because he's like, well, yeah, of course, of course you would. It's a case. That's what you're meant to do. It's interesting because they don't criticize him for going entirely off logic.
Yeah.
Because the fact that he keeps going off, which is the woman saw him, is such a great, it's such a, oh yeah, that's actually very objective evidence. Like, no matter what, if there was a witness,
Yeah.
It'd be like, say if I ran down the street and stabbed someone.
Okay, that escalated quickly.
Yeah. It doesn't matter if someone said, ooh, she had a bread knife, but, it was a switchblade.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if someone heard me yell it. If someone actually saw me do it and testified in court, that's a very hard bit of evidence to shake,
Yeah. And that's the one number 4 clings on.
Mm-hmm.
So should we go on to juror number 5, or do you want to continue with 4? Do you have anything to add?
Not yet. Obviously, we get more into the trial. Like when we get into some data details, 4 will get brought up again. But I think 5. I think we should go on to 5.
Okay. Do you still remember what 5 story was?
5 was. 5 was the guy from the slums, right?
Yeah, exactly. And he takes on an important role later. So, yeah, what I want to say about him now is that he's very sensitive if it comes to insults against him. Like racist slurs or stuff like that. Because he came from the same slums as the kid that is convicted.
Yes. Now, racism is a very big point in this movie, but when people start pointing out, like, hey, people from the slums of Ireland, is when he's like, now hold on a minute. And I think he's the first character that kind of brings out the fact that this film is about prejudice.
Yeah.
Which, it just straight up it is. I really liked his character.
I did too.
He was really good. Like, I especially like the scene when basically there's a scene towards the end where they're trying to explain the logic of the knife, and he made a very good point that, like, if you know how to use a switchblade, why would you stab down?
Yeah, just to make it to say it again, the father was stabbed downwards.
Yes.
So the wound was inflicted from a down stabbing, and it was inflicted by a switchblade. And normally, people who know how to handle switchblades, they would stab upwards because it's more natural.
Yeah, it'd be part of your fighting stance.
Okay, so
yeah.
Number 6.
Number 6. Who was number 6?
So I just watched at Wikipedia, and he is a house painter, and he speaks up when others are verbally disrespected. So he is like another more mature guy who tries to calm the situation when it's getting personal and out of hand.
Hang on, I'm getting up the IMDb.
Okay.
Because I tell you, it's getting to the point now where it's like, I need the pictures of the faces.
So yeah, number 6 doesn't have the biggest role.
Yeah, not as big as the others, but still had a pretty good role.
They all have, so they are all important to the story.
Oh yes, it was him. It was him.
Yeah, so you remember him.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go on to number 7. That's the Yankees fan.
Yeah, that's the guy with the hat.
Yeah. So he just wants to go to his baseball game.
The one scene with him, that is great. One of my favourite scenes in the whole movie.
The clash of
the end,
11 and 7, you mean?
Yeah, when 11 kicks off.
Okay.
So, obviously we'll get more into it when we get to 11. But throughout the movie, a lot of people being very casually racist to 11.
Yeah.
And 7 changed his vote to not guilty at the end because he just wants to be done. And 11 absolutely goes off on him. He's like, you can't just do that. Like, how dare you decide, you know what? No, I don't want to kill this person because I don't want to be here. You know, it's like, at least, you know, if you're going to vote not guilty because you believe he's not guilty.
Yes, because by that point, I think it could be that the audience forgot that it's actually about, that they are deciding actually about the life of someone.
Yeah.
And number 7, yeah, he basically just based his vote on which will get him out faster.
Mm-hmm. Because, like, yeah, this isn't about a prison sentence. This guy will die if they vote guilty.
Yeah.
And he tries to be like kind of racist or whatever. He's like, you can't say that to me. Almost like being like, hang on, I'm an American here. You can't say that to me. And then 11 just they're like, oh, I can.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely amazing scene. Got anything to say, more to say about 7?
No. So number 8.
Can we skip 8 and come back to him like we're going to come back to 3?
We can.
Because there's a lot to discuss about 8.
Yeah.
Number 9, aka that one guy that I really like that one close-up with.
Yeah. You mean the close-up where he slowly turns his head and watches... Like he looks into the camera as if he was talking to the viewer.
Yeah. And like it's like you look at IMDb, that's the picture of him. It's like they really like this one picture of them. But he's the first person to change his vote because he respects that number 8 is like, you know, standing alone.
Yeah.
And he's very interesting because he's the oldest man in the room.
He is.
As a result, he's very wise. In fact, I'd say he's one of the few people who... I don't think it's ever brought up whether he actually believes the man is guilty or not. He just wants the man to be given a fair shot.
Yeah, I think later on he is kind of convinced.
Oh, yeah.
But
especially by the glasses argument, he is.
Yeah, but I think in the beginning when he changed his vote, he wasn't entirely convinced. He just wanted to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. He has some absolutely great scenes. I think it was and like he's one of the few ones like even as everyone was getting angry, he was one of the few ones that like people always stood up for. So like I can't remember who, but like someone starts to get like really angry at him, and even though it was someone on the same side, he's like, hey, don't speak that way to an elder.
Oh, that's actually number 6. So that's his role.
Oh yeah, number 6 was the one standing up for number 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like number 9.
Me too. I think he's one of my favorites.
Mm.
Okay, let's go to number 10. Yeah, he's the racist.
He's just really... my favourite scene in the movie involves number 10, so there's not much I can say. As a character, superbly acted.
Yeah.
But fuck number 10, what an asshole.
So I would say he's after number 3, the main antagonist.
Yeah, he's definitely the most bad of the characters.
Yeah. So even though he's not as so number 3, he's the last one who changed his vote.
Yeah.
So he's not as consistent as number 3. and he bases his decision more on his xenophobic behavior, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is very xenophobic. And it's very interesting because it's like, yes, he has the worst views of all of them, but this kind of stuff does happen. There are people who will make up their mind just because of race in a court, and that shouldn't happen, but it does. God, this is a topical movie for 2021.
Yeah, it's timeless.
Mm-hmm. It was relevant then. It's relevant now, and in a way, I think it always will be relevant.
I think so too. Not only because of the topics it discusses, but how it's made. I think it's very important in film history.
So I've got a picture up right now which has all of the numbers and the actors.
Okay.
And right next to it, is a link to an article. Why 12 Angry Men is more relevant than ever. And I think that says it all. Like, it is timeless, as you've said.
Yeah, especially with what goes on right now over the world with Black Lives Matter and all that stuff.
Yeah. There's just so many discussion points to go off it. Racism, beliefs in the death penalty, personal bias.
Yeah.
Number 11.
Number 11, The Watchmaker.
Oh, I love number 11. I love number 11. He's such a cool guy. I just love how he was progressively not having anyone's shit as the movie went on.
Yeah. So yeah, he has a lot of respect for democratic values.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has like an entire speech where he kind of discusses that, like, the fact that America has a jury while some countries. Keep in mind, this was filmed whilst the Soviet Union was still up. It would be for a very long time. So,
we don't have to go that much back. We still have countries like North Korea.
Yeah, that was the one I was about to say.
Yeah.
Heck, when the remake of this movie came out, I think it was only like, it hadn't even been a decade since the Berlin Wall had fallen.
Yeah.
Which is... Again, this movie is timeless. And yeah, it's like, his character's very important because it's like, him and Five, I think, are like two of the more important characters to have. Because Five kind of is like, represents the background, you know, like, he's someone from that background, and 11, well, he isn't a Spanish American, he's a Swiss American, he's someone that people are xenophobic against.
He is, yeah. Okay, should we go on with number 12?
Yeah. Number 12 exists.
Yeah. So he's an advertising executive.
Yes.
Sorry, my English.
Your English is fine.
Okay. So yeah, he just exists.
Yeah, he has a couple. Honestly, there's not much to say about number 12.
No, it just represents... So his character represents what he does. I think it's, for most of them, their characters represent their jobs, kind of.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
the stockbroker is very analytical, and
Mhm.
this advertising guy, he's indecisive. Like advertisements, they can change your mind very quickly, and you jump from, position to position.
Mm-hmm. The old man, he's very wise. kind of has an understanding of the world that other people don't. Yes, I think you're right there.
Oh, and it says that juror number 1 is a football coach, so maybe that's why he's the one leading all that stuff, because he knows how to handle.
Yeah, and able to keep his cool.
Yeah.
You're,
Okay, so now that we are done with all 12, should we go into our favorite scenes? Or not scenes, more like favorite parts, because it's very hard to distinguish between scenes.
Before we get to scenes, we still have number 8 and number 3, and I asked for them to be left last because...
Sorry, I almost forgot.
No, I did this in a confusing way because there's so much to talk about with number 8 and number 3.
Yeah.
They are arguably the main characters. I mean, number 8 is the main character, but number 3, I'd say, just as much. Who would you rather start with? 8 or 3?
I think 8, because he starts all this stuff that's going on in the movie, so it's more important to go with 8 first.
So number 8, he's an architect. He's played by the producer. And he is the only man to initially vote not guilty. And what's very interesting about him is, despite being a very normal... And he definitely takes this more... He starts off the more detective-y thing, and it's very much just a case of all you need is one person to question it. You know, he very much is like, one person can change the world. If he had voted guilty, that would have been it, and the defendant would have been executed without a second thought.
Yeah, that would have been done like in 5 minutes, I think.
Yeah, it would have been a very short film.
And it would only take 5 minutes because number 9 was in the toilet before voting.
Yes, he was!
So the voting itself only took like half a minute.
Yeah, because they had that initial setup.
Yeah, it's kind of gruesome to think about how fast they could have sent this boy to death.
Mm-hmm. And all for what? Because 7 wanted to go to a baseball game. Because 10 was racist. Because of stuff we will go into with 3.
Yeah.
If anything, 4 was the only guy who really should have been on that jury, but of course that's not how juries work, and that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, in Germany we don't have a jury system, so I had to read a little bit about it because I'm not used to it.
How does it work in Germany?
In Germany, so we got the judge,
Okay.
A defendant, and a guy. Oh, I don't know the English terms.
Prosecutor.
Yes, and yeah, they argue. They can ask people, so they take them up front.
Yeah, witnesses.
Yeah.
No, call to stand and stuff like that, yeah.
And then it's this discussion between the prosecutor and the defendant. And in the end, the judge decides.
Okay.
But we don't have a death penalty in Germany either.
Yeah, so it is like a case of like, and I imagine there's kind of like a system of like appeals and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are still people who can watch the court case, but they are not included in deciding if someone is guilty or not.
Yeah. Okay. I legitimately like, I think one of the only other, like, foreign legal systems I'm aware of is, Japan, and that's only because, of Phoenix, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, 8 is absolutely, like, he's fantastically acted. He's calm, he's patient, but, like, he knows when to raise his voice.
Yeah, and he knows how to convince others, because he's not like, your opinion is wrong. I don't believe in the stuff you believe in. I just want to talk about this a little bit more, to give this kid a chance. And he also brings up the upbringing of this child, like the backstory.
Which is very important, I'd say, in a case like this.
Yes. So he says stuff like, the mother of the child died when it was just 9 years old. Then it spent some time in an orphanage, while the father was in jail.
Yep. And the father would beat him. It's like, even if the kid did it, who's to even say it wasn't in self-defense? And in that case, can you give the death penalty to someone in self-defense?
Yeah.
One of a scene that made me absolutely gasp. Like, I think this was the moment where I was like, okay, this is good. Because I commented, I think I even said to you, like, it starts a little slow.
Yeah, it does.
Which, considering how great the rest of it is, isn't that much of a problem. Like, one of the key things is, he was stabbed with a one-of-a-kind knife. That, according to the defendant, slipped out of his pocket.
Yeah.
It was a switchblade that had a very unique look. A bit like a dagger. It'll be on the poster. And, it's very, what are the odds? What are the odds a killer had the exact same knife? And as he's going through this, and they're all like, yeah, what's the odds? Right, pulls something out his pocket and stabs an identical knife into the table. And that's such a great scene. That's not my favourite scene, but it's such an incredible scene where you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he says stuff like, it was pretty easy to buy this knife. It was just down the road of where this supposed murder has happened.
Yeah, he said it was like two blocks away, and he got it really cheap.
Yeah, $6.
And they point out that, like, whoa, you just broke the law there. You brought a switchblade to court, and it's like, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, who broke the law? To try and save a man's life,
Yeah. Okay, should we move on to number 3?
Yes, we should. Number 3.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack here. The comedic thing, I was saying to you last night after I watched it, I could not put my finger on who number 3 looks like. He looks like the guy from How I Met Your Mother.
Which guy?
Not the
Jason
main guy.
Segel.
Not
Jason
the main
Segel.
guy. Yeah, I think it's him. Because it's not the main guy. It's not Barney.
So Marshall.
It's the third
It's
guy.
Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall. He
Yeah.
looks a little bit like him. Driving me absolutely insane because I could not work out who I remember, how I recognised him. And yeah, it's Marshall. It's not Marshall. He's been dead for years, but it looks like Marshall.
Yeah, kind of. I see similarities.
I think it's like the general face structure.
Yeah. I knew him from The Exorcist. That's why I knew his face.
Which is a film I absolutely need to get to. But we've got another horror movie to scare my pants off first.
Yeah.
So 3 is straight up, no, the kid's guilty.
He's very hot-tempered.
Yeah, he's very angry. And he's very interesting because in a lot of his arguments, he proves number 8's point. So one of the key bits of evidence was the old man on a witness, who heard the murder from downstairs, heard the words, "I'll kill you." It's pretty solid evidence, you know.
Yeah.
And then, whilst 8 makes I can't remember what he says, but he makes a personal attack, and 3 says in rage, "I'll kill him."
Yeah, it was I even wrote it down. So, number 3 says something like, "You let him slip through our fingers."
Mm-hmm.
And number 8 answers that it's a bad thing not to kill someone.
Mm.
So basically, if they vote guilty, they kill someone.
Yeah, because 3 basically it's almost like he wants the kid to die.
Yeah.
And
After that, he is totally enraged and says, "I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill this guy."
And that's when he slips up. That's where his entire logic falls apart. I feel like we have to talk about the ending when we talk about number 3, because as the last person to change his vote, he's very integral.
Yeah.
One thing I absolutely respect the filmmakers for doing, making what seemed like a throwaway line when they're all talking about the personal lives. Where he mentions that his son and respect and how he hasn't seen him in 2 years. How they made what seemed like such a throwaway line into such an important plot point.
Yeah, I like how they in the end they come back to this.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't come out of the blue. It was hinted at before.
Yep.
He mentioned that he and his son didn't speak for 2 years now because they had a fight.
Mm-hmm. And you don't think much of it, but then at the end, he has this amazingly acted ramble where he's pointing out all the evidence that has been refuted, trying to do it. And then he throws down his wallet and the picture of his son comes out. And then he mirrors his own words. And that's when you realise that the only reason he's arguing this is because he's upset with his son. And he's projecting onto his son.
Yeah.
And it's absolute... What a powerful scene where he's tearing up the photo, starts crying, and then just says, "Not guilty." What an absolutely powerful scene.
Yeah. It flips it flips how you perceive number 3 totally.
Mm-hmm.
First you see him as this antagonist, and in this scene you see him that he is just a human being, and you understand his reasons.
Mm-hmm. You kind of want to go over to him, put your hand on his shoulder, and you kind of want to help him. You kind of want to help him get back in touch with his son, make amends. But it's and that I think that is that is how you know you've just seen a powerful performance.
Yeah. So now, are you ready for favorite scenes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to start?
I would like to, thank you.
Okay.
My favorite scene is when number 10 goes on his xenophobic ramble, because he starts basically being like, but it's he basically, and this is just a paraphrase, he starts talking about into the defendant their kind, how they know violence, it's in their nature, and one by one everyone gets up and turns their back on him. Even number 3 gets up and turns his back on him.
Yeah.
And the only man to stay is number 4. And as he kind of you can tell number 10's starting to realise, hang on, why don't you guys agree with me? And I can't remember the exact quote, but number 4 base is like, I think he says something like, "Are you not hearing me?" And number 4 basically is like, "Oh, I've heard you, and you've said enough. Now sit down and don't say anything else." Like, it's so great because it's like even number 3, even someone who actively wants this person to die does not agree with 10.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that it's like no one was standing there arguing. It's the fact that they all got up and they didn't give him any mind. It's the fact that from a film from 1957 took such a powerful stance against racism. Just absolutely adored that scene. Absolutely fantastic.
This one is amazing.
Mm-hmm. What was yours?
My favorite scene. It's difficult with this movie because it consists of amazing scenes. Like, I love every single scene where they discuss one of the arguments that speak that the kid is guilty. Like the one where they discuss if the man actually could have seen the kid run away from the scene, or that if the woman could see the kid killing his dad, and all that stuff. But I think my favorite scene is the ending, when Juror 8 and 9, they go out of the building, and it's that time where they introduce each other for the first time by their names.
Yes.
Like, they are not just numbers, then they are actually individuals, you know?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I agree. That was a great scene. Like, they respect each other enough just to find out each other's names before they say their goodbyes.
Yeah, and just go on with their lives.
Did you notice in the background you can see number 3 very slowly walk down the stairs?
Yeah.
Reflecting. Yeah, that was a touch I really liked as well. And the fact that they didn't focus on it, you've got to pay attention to notice that.
Yeah, and even the weather kind of mirrors what happens in the courtroom. Like, it's very hot at the beginning. Then it starts to rain when I think when it's 6 to 6, it starts to rain.
Yeah, that's where it starts. That's where it's most tense.
And it's I just love the attention to detail. And later on, they even find a what's the name? Ventilator. Wait a minute.
The fan. They find the fan or the ventilator.
Yeah, they find a fan that even it cools down.
So I wanted to message alongside, so kind of talking about the weather and the tone. I don't know enough about cameras to say this, but you made a very interesting point to me about the cameras. Do you want to elaborate on that? Like, we did this we talked about in DMs, but like, do you want to elaborate on podcast about the camera?
I can try. So what they are doing is, in the beginning of the film, the cameras are mostly positioned above eye level, that you're looking down on the characters, and it's a really wide angle. So you see most of the characters, and you watch down. And the further we go into this movie, the focal length of the lenses increases.
Mm-hmm.
And we get more close-ups of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first it's like we are watching them from above. And the further we get into the movie, the closer we get to the characters, understand their points, how they are, their characters, you know?
Mm-hmm. It helps make it not only gets you more close and personal that you're there, it feels more claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Like, it gets more and more tense. It's like you almost also want to leave the room, but you're so hooked by the mystery. I think it's when like number three's argument's starting to fall apart. I think you get a good close up of everyone. I feel like this film could be taken scene by scene, and you could analyze absolutely every detail.
Yeah. It's like they put so much thought in every scene, in every camera angle, position, in the lines they say.
Yeah, and it was filmed relatively quickly too.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. 3 weeks, one room, 12 men.
Amazing movie.
Mm-hmm. And I think the final point I want to make, I think I mentioned this earlier, but I want to elaborate.
Okay.
It's very refreshing to see a murder mystery without an answer.
And without showing the murder.
Yeah. You get one shot of the defendant. You never see the murder. You never see any perspective shots trying to explain, like, maybe the other people's perspectives. There's no flashback. No corpse. You never get to talk to the people. You never find out about the victim.
Yeah, it's amazing that the victim doesn't even have a line in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know as much as they do. You're not given any extra thing because you're the viewer. It's unraveled. You find out as they find out.
Yeah. And I think during this movie, the viewer can decide himself or herself if...
That was not the Rona.
Don't worry, I will cut this out. I will make it 10 times louder than it was.
Yeah,
I decide.
Yeah, it just suddenly, and then you ended it. That was the Rona. Now my throat got really dry, and I was like, okay, maybe if I drink water. Oh no, that didn't help. You were talking about like how we don't know, but the audience isn't given any.
Yes, the audience can make up its mind.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I asked that question at the start. It's such a great place to start. Do you think he did it? I don't. Did he do it? Maybe.
It's not sure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes this movie great.
Yeah. Do you have any more points? Okay, do you have any more points you want to make before we get into rating?
You know, you could talk endlessly about this movie, but I think we should come to an end.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about the cinema stuff.
Yeah.
Or the bathroom scene, or any, like, there's so much to discuss. But yeah, we should probably wrap it up. How would you rate this movie?
10 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I mentioned this to my housemate after I watched it. I don't get the Oscars. This movie deserved a Best Picture.
Did it not win? I don't know which other movies were.
It was nominated, but I think it got beat.
Okay.
But this film absolutely deserved its nomination. I can't say whether it... I haven't seen the other movie, so who knows, maybe that was better. But...
Yeah, to be honest, I don't get the Oscars either, because most of the time you don't have to remember Best Picture all the time. For example, the time Wolf of Wall Street was nominated for Best Picture, I don't even know which one won,
Yeah.
but I know that Wolf of Wall Street didn't.
Mm-hmm. And there are films that get nominated for Best Picture before they're even like properly released, and it's like Oscar bait. Oscar bait is a kind of an issue, but regardless of my disliking of that, so yeah, we're both agreeing on this film being basically perfect.
Yeah.
If it has flaws, neither of us noticed. What did I say a few episodes ago about how there's no such thing as a perfect movie and everything has flaws, and now basically I just keep getting proved wrong?
Well, it's in our eyes, it's perfect. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10 for everyone. But in my eyes, it is a 10 out of 10.
It's one of those few movies that, like, I'd understand if you didn't think it was perfect, but I don't get how someone wouldn't like it. Or at least appreciate it. You know, like, I get why people don't like giant monster movies. I don't think I get why someone wouldn't like this movie.
Yeah, at least you should appreciate the art. Okay, and I think that's it for today's episode.
Yep.
And
next time we have a very fun film. Because, you know, what better movie to follow a gripping courtroom drama than a film about a giant ape? I have never watched King Kong, and we're watching the 1933 original.
I'm looking forward.
You see, it's kind of weird for me to explain why I chose this one, because how do you justify choosing King Kong? It's King Kong.
You just have to watch it some time in your life.
Yeah, it's absolutely in, like, 100 movies you gotta watch before you die.
Yeah.
In fact, I own that book, 1001 Movies You Should See Before You Die. It's probably in there. So yeah, we're going to be watching that next time.
Looking forward to it.
I am too. And by the time this comes out, this might be either just before or just after. We do have a Star Wars Day special planned. So we might be saying, oh, next time's King Kong, when actually next time is what we're doing for Star Wars Day. Don't count that. Like, this next traditional episode is King Kong.
Yeah.
But thank you for watching.
Or listening.
Listening, watching. Maybe you're in the future where you've smelt us. Until then, but until next time.
Bye.